G, hanging on the back of your door. Yeah.
I truly want to see if Justin's going to get his guy here work or not.
I do too.
Okay. Good morning, all. I'm Dwight Keene. I'm chair of the Kansas Corporation Commission. I'm joined this morning on the bench in Topeka by my two colleagues, Commissioner Susan Duffy and Commissioner Andrew French. At this time, I will call to order this meeting of the Kansas Corporation Commission on this Tuesday, December 20th, 2022. Commissioners, we have a fairly full agenda here for this morning's meeting. The first matters up for our consideration are 17 items on the consent agenda. We've had the opportunity to review the contents of the draft orders in each of these matters, so I would turn to each of you and ask if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. I'll begin with Commissioner Duffy.
Good morning, everyone. I have no questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner French.
Good morning. No questions. I move approval of the consent agenda.
I second the motion.
Been moved and second. We approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. The first noticed item for our consideration this morning is docket number 15-TKOG-236-COM. This is in the matter of a complaint against Texas Oklahoma Gas LLC for an order adjustment and refund of unfair, unreasonable, and unjust rates for the sale of natural gas for irrigation based on inaccurate or false-based measurements by Circle H Farms LLC, Richard L. Hansen, Rome Farms, and Stegman Farms Partnership. Before us this morning is an order on a unanimous settlement agreement, and our presenter is David Cohen. David, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I just can't see you on my screen.
There we go. Yeah.
That's why. That's a good reason. Good morning, David.
Good morning, commissioners. Before you is an order approving settlement agreement. Yeah, it should be. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, I pushed the button.
Yes.
Okay. This case has been ongoing in one form or another since 2015, so I'll sort of give a grand overview of the details. But it involves a billing dispute between Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma Gas, and Circle H Farms, Richard Hansen, Rome Farms, and Stegman Farms Partnership. Most recently, in July 2021, the Supreme Court remanded the matter back to the Commission with directions to craft an appropriate remedy. Parties have been negotiating and have jointly come up with a settlement agreement that satisfies all parties. Some of the provisions of the settlement are that TKO will pay a penalty of $10,000 to the State General Fund. TKO will provide billing credits to customers who are not parties of the case of up to 20 cents per MMBTU, up to a total of $180,000. TKO will provide notice as to why the billing credit is applied, and TKO will update their billing practices. The order finds that the settlement is supported by substantial and competent evidence as a whole, and will result in just and reasonable rates, and is in the public interest. I am available for questions.
All right. Thank you for that overview, David. Let's see if there are any questions. I'll begin with Commissioner Duffy.
Thank you. I have no questions.
Thank you. Commissioner French?
No questions. I move approval of the order in this docket.
And I second the motion.
Then moved and seconded, we approve the order in this matter. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. The order is approved. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
Next notice item up is docket number 22-CONS-3473-CMSC. This is a matter of the application of Can Oak Energy LLC as operator for an operator's license renewal. We have before us a motion on an order for summary judgment, and our presenter is Jonathan Myers, Assistant General Counsel. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Chair Keen, and good morning, Commissioners. Before you is an order granting staff's motion for summary judgment in this matter. I recommend approval of the order, and I am available for questions.
All right, thank you. Let's see if there are any questions. I'll turn first to Commissioner Duffy.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner French.
No questions. I move approval of the order in this docket.
I second the motion.
Then moved and seconded, we approve the order in this docket. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. The order is approved. Thank you, John. Next notice matter up is docket number 23-TRAM-445-PEN. This is in the matter of the investigation of B&B Ready Mix Inc. of Phillipsburg, Kansas, regarding the violations of the motor carrier safety statutes, rules, and regulations, and the commission's authority to impose penalty sanctions and/or the revocation of motor carrier authority. Before us this morning is a penalty order, and our presenter is litigation counsel Hassan Latif. Good morning, Hassan.
Good morning, Commissioners. The penalty order before you arises out of a compliance review of B&B Ready Mix Inc., a common and private motor carrier which hauls machinery, large objects, grain feed, hay, construction, sand, concrete, and rock, operating out of Phillipsburg, Kansas. This investigation was conducted on September 6th by special investigators Greg Askren and Jeff Stipe. The carrier was brought to staff's attention after it was involved in a fatality accident where a driver of the carrier struck a bicyclist. During this investigation, the special investigators found several violations, and the order before you assesses penalties for 10 of those violations, resulting in $5,750 in total penalties. The violations included a $1,500 fine for hauling loads in excess of the state weight limit of 85,000 pounds, a $500 fine for use of a driver who did not possess a valid commercial driver's license, a $3,000 and $3,000 in fines based on 3 violations related to failures of the company's drug and alcohol program. Additionally, there were violations related to the carrier's record keeping and inspection practices. In total, though, staff believes that the penalties are assessed appropriately against the carrier and recommends approval of the order. I and staff are both available to stand for questions.
Thank you, Hassan, for that overview. Let's see if we have any questions. I'll turn first this time to Commissioner French.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Duffy.
Just a comment. Again, we're dealing with a serious situation here, and I do appreciate staff's diligence in reviewing the carrier and that we are now taking action as appropriate. With that, I move approval of this order.
I second the motion.
Then moved and seconded, we approve the order in this matter. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. The order is approved. Next matter up for our consideration is a roll call vote by the commission on the certificate of adoption of permanent regulations. I'm going to turn for a brief background info again to you, Hassan, if you would, please.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioners. Again, the transportation staff seeks commission adoption of these proposed regulation changes, which have been approved by the Office of Budget, Department of Administration, and Attorney General's Office. These proposed changes would update the Commission's motor carrier regulations, allowing our regulations to conform with more recent versions of the federal regulations. Staff presented these regulations to the Joint Committee and Rules and Regs on October 18th, 2022. And afterwards, staff received a letter from the committee commending them on the work done to update our regulations. A public hearing on the proposed regulations was taken on December 6th before you all, at which time no one appeared and no comments from the public were taken. Since the public hearing was scheduled, we did receive feedback from the Highway Patrol on one of the proposed regulations relating to hazardous material rules. That change is currently with the Attorney General's office awaiting approval. But because the remaining larger batch was ready for approval, staff decided to proceed with the adoption of the remaining batch regulations at this time. When the hazardous material rule is approved by the AG's office, I will return to you again to get a certificate of adoption for that specific regulation. But the larger set of regulations currently before you has been approved and is ready for adoption by the commission. If the commission adopts the regulations today, then they will be submitted to the Secretary of State's office for publication in the Kansas Register. By your adoption today, we will improve our compliance with federal motor carrier regulations and ultimately improve the safety of the motoring public. And with staff requests the commission adopt the permanent version of these listed regulations by roll call vote. But in the meantime, I'm happy to answer any questions you have at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Hassan. Before we turn to the roll call vote, I would ask my fellow commissioners if they have any questions or comments. I'll turn first to Commissioner Duffy.
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner French.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Very well. I have no questions either. We'll proceed to a roll call vote. It's required that a majority of the commissioners approve the adoption of these regulations if they're to be adopted as permanent regulations. And toward that end, I will individually poll each commissioner. Commissioner Susan K. Duffy, how say ye?
I vote aye.
Commissioner Andrew J. French, how say you?
Yes.
Dwight D. Keene, Commissioner, I vote aye. All three having voted in favor, it appears that we have approved the adoption of these regulations as permanent regulations. It's required that we execute, or that the executive director execute a certificate of adoption on our behalf, and that will be done. Hassan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we have two discussion items. The first of which I will simply note this for the record, that the KCC business meeting calendar will be adjusted by the cancellation of the Thursday, January 12, 2023 business meeting and the scheduling of a Tuesday, January 17th, 2023 business meeting. That business meeting will include the KCC organizational meeting. All right, the next matters for our consideration are two very well-deserved recognitions by two KCC employees for their state service. The first of which is Michelle Stovall. Are you there, Michelle?
Chair Keene, she is not. She had an appointment this morning and is unable to join us.
Okay, well, in her absence, let me briefly summarize her state service, if I might. She began her state service with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment in May of 2002 as an administrative assistant. While at KDHE, she was promoted first in 2006 to a senior administrative assistant position, then in 2007 to a technology support tech 1, in 2013 at technology support tech 2, in 2016 as a technology support consultant, and fortunately for us, in February of 2018, Michelle joined the KCC in the IT division as a technology support consultant. We're doing this for the record, and before I turn to my fellow commissioners, let me simply say that, Michelle, I thank you so sincerely for the quality of service and your willingness to assist in a lot of really sometimes complicated undertakings with respect to your position. Your service is exemplary, and it's been my pleasure to be able to work with you. So thank you for your service. 20 down and 20 more to go. Okay, I'll turn next to Commissioner Duffy.
Thank you. Yes, I too would like to acknowledge Michelle And we have a 20-year pin for Michelle. I know these must be real sapphires in the state pin, but Michelle is one of the Oz behind the curtain. And we cannot function without that skill and expertise. But she is so much more than that. She is our, I've got a problem. And she's up helping us navigate the technology underpinnings of this agency. And without her, we would not be as transparent as we are with our public hearings and our meetings. And we value the human resources behind the technology. So thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Commissioner Duffy. Commissioner French.
I'll just subscribe to all of that. Michelle is a fixer and has helped fix my situation on more than one occasion with technology. So thank you so much, Michelle, for your service. And now I think we will turn to Todd for a few comments.
I can't speak any better than what has already been spoken here on behalf of the Department of IT and the agency. Michelle is a great worker and team member. We're pleased to have her on staff. And I just concur with everything that's been said already today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Todd. Well, thank you, Michelle. We'll wait until you're on the premises and be able to thank you personally. Our next recognition this morning is, again, for 20 years of service. And this is for Justin Grady, who is our Chief of Revenue Requirements, Cost of Service, and Finance. Is Justin in the hearing room?
He is here and he is coming forward right now as you speak.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
yes. Go ahead and speak while he walks down the ramp. Yes. The red carpet, as you see, right here.
Let me provide a brief background about Justin's state service. He started state service with the Utilities Division as an intern in September of 2002. In March of 2004, he became a full-time auditor. Since that time, he has been promoted several times. First in 2007, he was promoted to senior auditor. Then in 2010 to managing auditor. And then in 2012 to the position he now holds, which is Chief of Revenue Requirements, Cost of Service, and Finance. I think, Justin, it's an incredible understatement to say that you're a major link in the chain here within the Utilities Division. Your service is distinguished, always has been. Your commitment to professionalism and your dedication to the state has been exemplary. We're fortunate that happens to have occurred with the Corporation Commission. Thank you, sir, so much for your service. I'll turn to you now to Commissioner Duffy, please.
All right, Justin, I've got a 20-year pin here for you too. It is a symbol of our appreciation, but I also started with a poem, if I can. I hired you. I was here as ED and hired you, and I remember that day. So it starts like this. You were young, you were brash, you might even say you were a pain in the... But you were smart and you learned. You questioned everything as an intern. So I'm writing this and I had to stop because how do I describe the metamorphosis that occurred from what you were to what you are, and the value that we gain every day from you, from the network in your head to figure out the most complicated, difficult issues of the day, to your ability to synthesize that and speak so plainly, like Grandpa sitting in front of the fire. You just explain. You just tell us in real words what these complicated issues are about. For that, I am deeply grateful and gratified. And I know the legislature, the general public, and our utilities that we deal with every day are thankful that the quality of work, the quality of person and character resides in this agency. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your service of 20 years, a long time here at the KCC. So it's my privilege to give this to you to shake
Thank you.
your hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
It'll look great on, it'll look good on your lapel.
Those have got to be real. You're right.
Yeah.
Commissioner French, please.
Well, I'll be brief, and I left my poem at home. I'm sorry. No, how to put this? 20 years. That's pretty amazing that you've been here 20 years, and you've been here extending beyond my career. Let me make that clear. You were here when I came here. I've been fought alongside you. I have been in opposition to you, and now I sit in a different position. But you've been a steady presence throughout my whole career, and I don't think there is any exaggeration saying 75% of everything I know about this industry, I either learned from you or we sat together and learned it together. It's a pretty big portion of everything I know. And I also think, you sort of set the standard for independence and using your best judgment. Sometimes it's not the same judgment as other folks in the building or outside the building, but it's independent and it's qualified. And as I said, you set the standard for that. So I don't have anything more to add on that. You and I have a long history, and I hope it continues.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Jeff in the room?
Yes, he is.
Let's hear from Jeff.
Probably not much to hear. First, I think there's a mistake. It cannot have been 20 years. So I don't know where that went. But I can say that over the last 20 years, it has gotten exponentially more complicated. And to Commissioner Duffy's point, Justin has not only adjusted to that complexity, he's thrived in it and excelled and performed exceptionally well. So to that end, I'm working a long-term contract. We're going to lock him down for the next 20 just to make sure we're all covered. So we can all rest easy tonight.
You want to say a few words?
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Justin, I'm going to add a me too in a second to what Jeff just said, and I'll repeat what I said with respect to Michelle. With equal earnestness to you, we got 20 down and 20 to go. You're almost halfway. In all seriousness, thank you so much for your service. We're going to give you the last word. You have a chance to defend yourself now, so please do.
Well, thank you, everyone. I promised Dennis that I'd keep this to below 10 minutes, so I've got to do my best. I don't have any poems either. All of everything that the commissioners and Jeff said was obviously, genuine and heartfelt, and I really do appreciate those comments. I mean, they're sort of embarrassing to me. I don't usually like this kind of public recognition, but this has been a great place to work. It's a funny thing because it's not. It's probably not a very typical career path for somebody in kindergarten, career day, or fifth grade. Nobody really says, I want to grow up to be a utility regulator. But I'm really glad that I have. It's truly gratifying, satisfying work, and we'll see what we can do about that next 20 years. So thank you guys.
And
Thank you.
Chair Keen, if I could, there were others who were to receive service awards.
Please.
So we have a whole list of folks, and I would like to recognize them for the record. Brian Fedotin, our general counsel, has been with us 10 years. Mike Neely, our litigation counsel, 10 years. Katie Figgs in utilities has been here 10 years. Tim Reagan, 10 years in the utility division. Craig Stoll in conservation there in the central office has been with us 10 years. Todd Bryant in the conservation office has been with us 10 years. John Schofield, way out in Dodge City today, has been with us for 10 years. And Brooke Dyke in Chanute has been with us 10 years. In the Hayes office, we recognize Jennifer Hawthorne for 10 years. As we mentioned, Michelle Stovall and Justin Grady for 30 years. In the docket room up on the 3rd floor, day in and day out, Deanne Shoup has made sure that we could find our records before we even thought about electrifying them. And she continues to perform a credible service for us after 30 years. Paula Shoemaker could not be with us today. She is our public affairs, our illustrator, our photographer, she takes what is black and white and makes it beautiful. So we recognize her for 30 years. And then in the central office there in Wichita are in conservation, and I believe they're going to be celebrated tomorrow, are Kathleen Hayes and Cindy Metcalf, who celebrate 40 years, each of them 40 years with the KCC and the state of Kansas, and they will be recognized by the governor in 2023 for their 40 years of service. That is just incredible, and we are so proud to have them here with us. Thank you, Chair Keene, for allowing me to share the celebrations of this agency and the years of public service of these good people.
Thank you, Commissioner Duffy. And I extend my gratitude as well to each one of those individuals for their service to the state and to the commission. It's been a real advantage to us to have you on our staff, and we're grateful for your work in each instance. Well, Commissioners, I believe we're at the end of the agenda for today. Unless there are anything further that you care to bring up at this time, I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all. Take care.